Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today we are going to discuss about the bacterial pathogenesis. Before starting the details of bacterial pathogenesis, we are going to have an overview of the classification of bacteria, as well as we are going to get a definition of the terms that we will use in this chapter. So, regarding this first slide, now we are going to discuss different categories of the organisms. Like we have gram-positive cocci, we have gram-positive rods, then we have gram-negative cocci and gram-negative rods. So here are a few examples of a gram-positive cocci. Before this chapter, I have already told you that gram-positive bacteria are those that are having a thick peptidoglycan layer, while the gram-negative bacteria are those which are having very thin layer of peptidoglycan. So that is the reason that they are going to have gram-positive stain or gram-negative stain. So gram-positive bacteria are also divided into the two groups, the cocci and the rods. So we have the examples here about gram-positive cocci. We have Staphylococcus aureus, Staphylococcus epidermidis. Then we have another genus, Streptococcus pyogenes, Streptococcus pneumoniae, and we have Enterococci. All these are actually the examples of gram-positive cocci. Regarding gram-positive rods, we have the Bacillus genus, Clostridia genus, and few others. In case of Bacillus, we have Bacillus anthracis, Bacillus cereus. In Clostridia, we have Clostridium botulinum, Clostridium difficile, Clostridium perfringens, and Clostridium tetani. Others are like Listeria monocytogenes, Corynebacterium diphtheria, we have Actinomyces, and we have Nocardia. All of these are actually the gram-positive rods. Now, just a little overview about the organism, about the diseases that these organisms usually are responsible for. So we have Staphylococcus aureus. These are actually pyogenic organisms that produce pus causing infections. Then we have Staphylococcus epidermidis, which are actually involved in catheter induced infections. The Streptococcus pyogenes are usually responsible for certain skin infections, and also the sore throat. It is the primary organism that is responsible for the sore throat. Streptococcus pneumoniae is actually responsible for causing pneumonia. Then we have Enterococci. They are also causing pyogenic infections, including urinary tract infections and few others like endocarditis. Regarding this, now we are going to have an overview of the gram-positive rods. Bacillus anthracis, as the name indicates, it causes anthrax. We have Bacillus cereus, another organism that is responsible for causing diarrhea. Clostridium botulinum is responsible for paralysis. Clostridium difficile is another diarrhea causing agent. Clostridium perfringens is very much notorious of causing gas gangrene. A few other strains are actually causing diarrhea, but it is basically notorious for causing gas gangrene. Clostridium tetani, as the name indicates, it is responsible to cause tetanus. Listeria monocytogenes is responsible for causing meningitis, especially in babies. It is also responsible to cause diarrhea. Corynebacterium diphtheria, it is responsible to cause diphtheria. We have Actinomyces and Nocardia. Both of them are included in causing pyogenic or pus causing infections. Then we have gram-negative rods. The organism included in this category are like we are having examples of E. coli, Salmonella, Shigella, Vibrio cholerae, Bordetella pertussis, Campylobacter jejuni, Helicobacter pylori, Haemophilus influenzae, Proteus, Klebsiella, and Pseudomonas aeruginosa. All of them are examples of gram-negative rods. Now the E. coli is another organism that is responsible to cause diarrhea. It is also the top ranked organism to cause urinary tract infections. It is also responsible for causing sepsis and meningitis in various ages. Salmonella is responsible to cause typhoid, and a few of the species are related to the gastroenteritis that they usually cause. And then we have Shigella, another organism responsible for diarrhea, especially the dysentery. Vibrio cholerae is another diarrhea causing bacteria. Then we have Bordetella pertussis, that you would have heard this name, whooping cough. This Bordetella pertussis is responsible to cause whooping cough. Then we have Campylobacter jejuni, that is affiliated with the peptic ulcer disease. We have Haemophilus influenzae causing pneumonia or meningitis. Then we have Proteus, again responsible to cause urinary tract infections, sometimes pneumonia and sepsis. Klebsiella, the same picture, UTI, pneumonia and sepsis. Pseudomonas aeruginosa is again responsible to cause UTI, pneumonia and sepsis. Otherwise, Pseudomonas aeruginosa is notorious to cause disease of various portions of your body from head to the toe. They can cause infections in eye, ear also, and even the skin infections. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today we are going to discuss about the bacterial pathogenesis. Before starting the details of bacterial pathogenesis, we are going to have an overview of the classification of bacteria. So these were the categories. To summarize, we have Enterococci, Staphylococcus, Streptococcus. All these are the gram-positive cocci. Then we have rods, as we have discussed, Bacillus, Clostridium, Corynebacterium, Lactobacillus, Listeria. All these are actually gram-positive rods. We have Neisseria species actually included in gram-negative cocci. Acinetobacter and Moraxella, these are basically considered in a special category that are called gram-negative Coccobacilli. So they are not specifically included in cocci. The specifically included cocci in gram-negatives are actually the Neisseria genus species. So we have these other examples for gram-negative rods. We are again subdividing into two categories: non-enteric rods and enteric rods. So we have different organisms like Haemophilus, Legionella, Bartonella, Bordetella. All these are actually non-enteric rods, and the enteric rods have a big category like Bacteroides, Campylobacter, Enterobacter, E. coli, etc. All these are actually gram-negative rods that are enteric ones. Now we have few important terms that we should be knowing regarding pathogenesis. So what is a pathogen? Anything able to cause disease, whether a virus, whether a bacteria, fungus, anything like this, all these are considered to be pathogens. Then there is a term opportunistic pathogen. Opportunistic pathogen is a pathogen that rarely cause disease in an immunocompetent person. They actually cause disease in immunocompromised patients. What is virulence? Quantitative measurement of pathogenicity in terms of number of organisms required to cause a disease, that is called virulence. Pathogenicity islands actually are the regions in the chromosomes where the genes that are responsible for the formation of virulence factors are present. Those regions are actually called pathogenicity islands. Then we have infectious dose, the dose required to cause disease. Like salmonella, it would be needing around 1 lakh salmonella to cause a disease, whereas in case of Shigella we only need around less than 100 organisms to cause diarrhea in case of Shigella. What is LD50? That is lethal dose 50. It's the number of organisms needed to kill half the host in an experiment or so. So in that case, if we are having 100, then approximately if the number of organisms that like if we need to kill half the host, that dose that can kill approximately half the number of individuals in an experiment, then this is called lethal dose 50 or LD50. And if we are talking about just causing infection in different individuals in such experiments, then the number of organisms required to cause infection in half the host, that is called ID50 or infectious dose 50. What is contagious? Contagious is a term used for a disease that is highly communicable. Now you would be knowing about different factors that are released in case of an immune response. That would be including interleukins, that are actually cytokines usually released by white blood cells. Then we have tumor necrotic factor, refer to a group of cytokines that can cause cell death, fever, inflammatory signs, hypotension, activation or aggregation of platelets, adherence of neutrophils with endothelium, increased expression of MHC proteins. All these are the effects that are produced by the TNF. Then we have the vasodilators, that are bradykinin and nitric oxide. Superantigens are the class of antigens which cause non-specific activation of T cells, resulting in polyclonal T cell activation and massive cytokine release. Actually, usually, whenever there is an antigen entering in a body, we usually have a specific clone of T cell that would be activated, but there are certain antigens that produce an enhanced response. It's not a clear cut, like it will not be activating only a single clone of T cell, it would be a polyclonal T cell activation response. So such antigens will be producing enhanced immune response that are called superantigens. Then we have opsonin. Opsonin is any molecule that enhances phagocytosis by marking an antigen for an immune response, like an antibody or a complement molecule. Any such agent will be called an opsonin. IL-6 induce the acute phase proteins that can also induce fever. IL-8 are the chemokines that attract neutrophils. What is an epidemic? Like when there was a dengue epidemic, you would be knowing then if so, that would be defining the term epidemic. The disease, if it's occurring much more frequently than usual, then this is called an epidemic. And whenever it will be having a worldwide distribution, like what is happening in case of coronavirus, this is called a pandemic. Whenever any disease or infection, if it would be prevalent at a low level in a specified population, like we have the diarrhea cases, such infections are actually called endemic. What is an inapparent or subclinical infection? Such infections can only be demonstrated by a rise in antibody titer or by isolating an organism. Otherwise, it will be difficult to detect such kind of infections. What is a latent state? Some infection result in a latent state after which reactivation of growth of organism or recurrence of symptoms may occur. So that phase before that reactivation is actually called latent state. Chronic carrier state, like a state that is developed in case of hepatitis infections like hepatitis B or C, that state in which organism continue to grow with or without producing symptoms in a host, That state is called chronic carrier state. Normal flora is the permanent residents of a body. But what are the colonizers? Colonizers are actually the new organisms that are neither a member of normal flora nor the cause of disease, but they come and just become part of the normal flora that are called commensals or colonizers.